Hi everyone, how is everybody doing? My name is Emily and welcome back to my channel where we talk about books and reading and books I'm reading and random bookish topics, and I want to hear about the books you're reading. But I hope everybody had a great weekend. This week is going to be the last week in August, so summer is really and truly coming to a close, even though schools here have been in session like from the very beginning of August. But for me, summer really truly runs from like Memorial Day to Labor Day. So that's kind of, for me, this is truly coming to be the end of summer. But yeah, so with the fall comes a lot of new, fun, exciting things. And fall is probably one of my favorite seasons, even though here in the southern United States, the true fall we get is very brief and very cherished, and it won't be here for quite a while, but I'm happy to inch in that direction. The weather this coming week is supposed to be in the 80s all week, which I will take the blessed reprieve and run with it. So yeah, but this upcoming weekend for us in the United States is Labor Day weekend, which means a lot of people have the Monday of that weekend off work. Not everybody does, but banks are closed, courts are closed, it's a federal holiday. So a lot of people have that Monday off. So I kind of wanted to recommend a few short books for the long weekend. If you need something to kind of help bridge the gap from your summer reading into your fall reading, or if you want to participate in Shorty September, which is a booktube event where everyone tries to read shorter novels. And I think the criteria is that they are fewer than 200 pages. Now, most of these books I have to share today qualify for that. One, I think, is over 200 pages by just a little bit, but it's still fewer than 250 pages. So yeah, I just feel like these are books you can finish over a 3-day weekend, and maybe could just kind of give you a good jump start into your fall reading. And hopefully with me posting it on Monday, if you choose to get any of these books, you still would have time to pick them up before the long weekend. So I am happy to share with you these 5 recommendations. Okay, the first book I want to share is Hannah Coulter by Wendell Berry. And this is, 186 pages. So fewer than 200, so this would qualify for Shorty September. But this is, well, let me just say this. Wendell Berry, a lot of his fiction takes place in the fictional town of Port William, Kentucky. And this novel is no different. This novel is about Hannah Coulter, a woman who lives in Port William, and at its most basic form, it is her telling the story of her life from the time she was a child through her first employment to her marriage and to another marriage, her relationship with her children, and her relationship with the community of Port William and the impact that community has on her life, and how she also plays a role in that community. And this, I feel like I can't say enough about this novel. This is a novel that I would recommend to nearly everyone. I don't tab books very often, but I did tab this when I read it. There's something about Wendell Berry's works for me, and I love his prose, and there's just something about his words that are just a balm to my soul. And I really don't know how else to explain the impact his writing has on me, but this is a beautiful novel. It's introspective. It really talks about the importance of community. And it talks about it, Wendell Berry terms it the membership of Port William. And you are a member of this community, and that comes with obligations and also privileges. And it's something that's willingly entered into and willingly taken part of, and just something that gives back beautifully to you when you engage in it. Yeah, I think this would actually be a really great book to transition into fall. It deals with a lot of agrarian themes and farm life, and also dealing with the changing of seasons on the farm and in a rural setting. I love this novel, so this would be a great one, I think, to read over the long weekend. And next is A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. I mentioned this briefly in my last video, or I mentioned it in my rapid fire tag video, but this novel is 135 pages. So this one also qualifies for Shorty September. And this is another pretty introspective, internal kind of novel. It's about a man named Tom Birkin, and it's immediately following World War I. He was a veteran of the war, and Tom has he has kind of fled his unpleasant domestic life from the war, and he has gone to the English countryside to a church where he has been commissioned to restore a mural on the wall of the church. And it is the story of how he's uncovering that mural and how he begins to change and recover in a myriad of different ways while he's uncovering the mural, and through the relationships with the people he meets in this very small community. And I just don't hear people talk about this very much, but it's wonderful. It's wonderful. You really get to delve into his mind, and you don't necessarily always agree with what he's thinking or where he's going, or understand, but it's a very subtle novel you almost don't realize that he's changed by the end of it until you really see it. But yeah, I like this. I credit there's a podcast called Close Reads, and they have a Substack, but I credit that podcast with introducing me to this book, and they had a great discussion about it. So A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. Our next book is actually a play, and that is Our Town by Thornton Wilder. And being a play, it's obviously a little more short, but my copy comes in at just 112 pages. Now, I really enjoy reading plays, so I kind of wanted to throw this in here. I actually read this for the first time after I read Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. And in Tom Lake, this play features very prominently as kind of a set piece in the novel. But this is a play written by Thornton Wilder. It won the Pulitzer Prize for drama, and it is set in a fictional town in New Hampshire in the early 20th century. And it follows the Webb family and the Gibbs family over a period of several years, and it primarily deals with Emily Webb and George Gibbs, the respective children of the Webb family and the Gibbs family, and Emily and George's romance, as it follows them from their school days and forward. And I don't want to talk too much about things that happen in this, because I think it's best if you have never encountered this before, I think you should encounter it without knowing anything, because that's how I read it. And I don't know, I feel like I didn't used to cry very often in books, and maybe I do now more than I used to, but it's still kind of a rare occurrence. But I bawled my eyes out at the end of this play. I bawled my eyes out. And I have never actually seen a stage production of this play, and I really want to. And I can't imagine what an effect it would have seeing it performed. But this is a great play, I think, to transition into fall from summer, just given the setting and the time period and the themes. It feels like an overly simplistic play with the plot and the story, but I think because it's so simple is why it resonates so much with people, because it's real. The occurrences in this play are real, everyday occurrences, and I think that's kind of where the magic comes from. So if you have never read this or seen a stage production of it, I would highly recommend Our Town. The fourth book I want to share is also another novel that was introduced to me by the Close Reads podcast, and it's called Vipers Tangle, and it's by Francois Mauriac. Francois Mauriac was a French novelist. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1952, I believe. And he was kind of known for his quote unquote Catholic novels, I guess. He was kind of a contemporary of Graham Greene. But prior to hearing about this through that podcast, I had never heard of him as an author or this book. But this was one of my favorite books last year that I read. I loved this. And again, like I said, I don't tab very much, but I tabbed the heck out of this. And this is also a very introspective, internal novel. It is about an older man in France, and he is consumed with anger and bitterness towards his wife and his children and nearly everyone in his orbit. And he essentially begins to write a letter to his wife, essentially explaining why he hates her so much and why he hates their children, and why none of them deserve to inherit any of his money when he dies, and how he plans to go about divesting them of that inheritance. And I know some people who read this struggled at the beginning because he was so consumed by this bitterness and these negative feelings, and you get really into his psyche, and it was difficult for them to read, but stick with it. As he continues to move through explaining everything, you start to see subtle shifts in how he thinks and what he believes and what he's learning, and how maybe his perception isn't accurate of events that have occurred. If you like a novel that really gets you into somebody's head and into the tangled web of their heart and emotions, this is a great book for that. Oh, I didn't tell you how long it was. This one is 205 pages. And so it maybe technically doesn't qualify for Shorty September, but it's only 5 pages. It's only 5 pages more. But this is, I can't say enough. I mean, it does delve into some spiritual aspects, but I think even if you are not interested in that, I think you would still appreciate this novel just for it's very subtle in showing his journey and how he became how he is now, and how it demonstrates his slightly changing perception of things. But Vipers Tangle is a great book, a great book. So if you've never heard of it, like I never had, I really suggest picking it up. And this is a great fall and winter novel, I think. And the last one I have to talk about is a memoir, and that is A Severe Mercy by Sheldon Van Auken. And this is, I think this is my one that doesn't really qualify for Shorty September. This is 238 pages. So I think it's still something that you could easily read over a long weekend. But this is the classic memoir, and Sheldon Van Auken was a friend of C.S. Lewis, and they became friends and they corresponded. And this is essentially the story of Sheldon's conversion to Christianity because of C.S. Lewis. And it's also about his wife's conversion and about Sheldon's relationship and romance and marriage to her and their deep love for each other. And this is such a tragic, gorgeous memoir. This is another book that I cry when I read. I don't know, maybe there's just something about the fall with that, or maybe I'm just getting more sentimental as I get older, but this is a gorgeous, gorgeous memoir. If you've never read this, I highly recommend it, particularly if you are Christian. Even if you're not, it's still wonderful, but particularly if you are, I think you would appreciate it. And it's just really, really good. And this also includes letters between Sheldon and C.S. Lewis, which are great to read if you like Lewis's writings as well. So yeah, again, highly recommend. But okay, so there are 5 books that I hope you could enjoy over a long weekend, and maybe just a little something to get you started going into fall and ending summer. And I hope that you check 1 or 2 of them out. If you do, let me know. And if you have any great recommendations for a short book like that for a long weekend that you think would be a good bridge from summer into fall, let me know in the comments, because I'm looking for one myself to read over the weekend. So let me know, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.